Okay, so you're interested in this Tao of Badass.
Yeah.
This Joshua Pellicer guy. He says he's got like this whole system figured out
Right.
to make any man,
Yeah.
a badass with women.
Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got psychology.
Right.
It's got body language stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
A whole lot of confidence building.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Like,
Yeah.
does any of this actually work?
I think it definitely, it taps into something that a lot of men feel, that wanting to feel confident and, be successful and attracting women.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting is that, Pellicer, he really frames his advice around these traditional gender roles.
Oh, yeah.
He really leans into this. Like,
Yeah.
men are the social providers.
Yeah.
The strong, logical ones. Women are the more emotionally expressive ones.
Right, like that whole, men are from Mars, women are from Venus is thing,
Yeah, exactly.
kind of thing.
But isn't that a little outdated?
I mean, yeah. Like,
the dating world has changed so much.
Absolutely.
Since this book came out.
It really raises the question of, like,
right.
how much of this stuff still holds up today?
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, he argues that men should, control their emotions and make, the logical decisions in relationships.
Yeah, it's a very traditional view of, masculinity, almost like a
stoic. Yeah.
Stoic view.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not exactly the
Right.
the sensitive new age guy.
Not quite.
We hear so much about these days.
No.
But he does emphasize confidence.
Right.
Like, that's the
big time.
That's like the core of his whole system.
Yeah, he believes that confidence comes from
right.
Recognizing your own value.
Right.
And then projecting that through your actions, body language,
Yeah.
And he's got this whole slippery slope mentality thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where he argues that women are naturally drawn to wealth.
Right.
Because it signals, other desirable qualities in a man.
Like you're a good provider? Yeah.
Exactly. It all comes back to that social provider role he keeps emphasizing.
So it's not just about being rich. It's about what wealth.
It's what it represents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. But wouldn't that mean that, guys are constantly trying to one-up each other?
Yeah.
He actually has this whole, ranking system, right?
Yeah.
From, 1 to 10 based on your social value.
It's a value level system. Yeah, and he argues that men should aim to be, these
top tier 9s and 10s.
Right.
These guys who radiate confidence make others feel valued. And it ties directly back into that belief that women are drawn to men who can elevate their social standing and their happiness.
Okay, I see how that plays into that whole social provider.
Exactly.
But does it actually work like that?
Well,
can you really fake confidence until you make it?
That's a really important question.
Or is it more about developing genuine self-esteem?
Because true confidence can't be faked forever. It has to come from within.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into some of his techniques.
Yeah.
One that really stood out to me was this map of interaction.
Right.
It's like this.
It's a four-phase
system for how to approach, interact with women.
Exactly. He breaks it down into attraction, rapport, seduction, and then finally relationship balance.
Okay, and
each phase has its own specific techniques.
Techniques to move the interaction forward.
Yeah.
So for example, in the attraction phase, he talks a lot about using playful banter. And this thing he calls qualifying.
Right.
Basically, you're showing interest in a woman.
Yeah.
But you're also kind of making her feel like she needs to win.
Make her feel like she needs to win.
Your approval.
Yeah. It's about creating a sense of challenge.
Right.
Making her chase your attention.
So it's kind of like turning the tables.
A little bit.
Making her do the pursuing. That's pretty clever.
Right.
But does it come across as genuine?
Well...
Or does it feel manipulative?
That's where I think the ethical considerations come in,
Yeah.
Some might argue these techniques are manipulative.
Right.
While others might see them as simply, understanding social dynamics and using them to your advantage.
I guess it comes down to your intention, how you're using these techniques.
Yeah.
So what about the next phase?
So then we move into rapport.
Rapport.
Which is where you start building a deeper emotional connection.
Okay.
He suggests sharing personal stories, even vulnerabilities, to create that sense of intimacy.
Like you're really opening up.
It's about moving beyond that surface level attraction.
Right.
Showing a woman your more authentic self.
And then, of course, there's the seduction phase.
Right.
Does he actually get into any specifics for that?
He talks about, you know, transitioning from that playful energy to something more sensual. Being able to recognize signs of interest from a woman.
Yeah.
You know, it's about reading the subtle cues and escalating the physical intimacy appropriately.
So it's not all just cheesy pickup lines and trying to impress women with flashy displays.
Yeah.
There's actually some thoughtfulness involved.
There should be some thoughtfulness
involved.
Yeah. And then finally he talks about finding that relationship balance where both partners feel
we're both partners.
Valued and respected.
Feel valued and respected.
I mean, it all sounds good in theory.
Right.
But is it realistic?
Well,
can you really break down like human connection into this step system?
That's a great question.
You know?
It is. And it's one that, you know, we'll continue to explore.
Right.
But one thing I do want to mention is that he emphasizes a lot the importance of body language.
Okay.
He talks about, you know, eye accessing cues.
Wait, so like if she looks...
claiming that you can tell.
To the left, she's lying?
What someone's thinking.
To the right, she's attracted to me?
Based on the direction they look.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it that simple?
Well, he seems to think so.
Okay.
He's a big believer in the power of nonverbal communication.
Okay.
And he even has this triangle gaze technique.
Okay.
Where you supposedly look from a woman's eyes to her lips and back to trigger certain feelings.
That's getting a little creepy, don't you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of this is like...
Right. Like how much is...
Scientifically valid.
Scientifically valid.
And how much of it is just...
And how much are we just...
You know...
Projecting our own interpretation.
Projecting our own interpretation onto these subtle movements, you know?
Are we overthinking things?
Right. Are we overthinking it?
Yeah.
Is it really all about these secret codes and hidden signals?
Yeah.
Or is it more about just...
Being present.
Being genuine, connecting on a human level.
Because at the end of the day, people can sense when you're not being authentic. No matter how.
Doesn't matter how...
Smooth your moves are.
Smooth your moves are, exactly.
Right.
And that's something we'll discuss further in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore whether these techniques can be used ethically and effectively.
Right.
Or if they're just clever tricks that ultimately backfire.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So stay with us.
Yeah.
We're just getting started.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about, you know, Pellicer's ideas about confidence and his, you know, his map of interaction and all that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that like really surprised me was how much he emphasizes like building an actual like emotional connection with a woman.
Yeah.
He calls it creating love.
Right.
Which is such a strange...
It's an interesting phrase.
Yeah, it is. And he's got this whole formula for it.
Yeah.
It's like he shifts gears from like pickup artist tactics to...
Right. It's almost like...
Something deeper.
He becomes like a relationship therapist all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's really...
So let's like break down this formula.
Yeah.
It starts with what he calls acceptance. Basically like making a woman feel heard and understood.
Making her feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's about shifting the focus to yourself, like sharing your own feelings and experiences.
Exactly. He encourages using phrases like, whenever I blank, I feel blank.
Oh, you know, like linking specific actions to the emotions they evoke in you.
So you're being vulnerable.
Yeah. It's all about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Being open, letting her see into your inner world.
And he even suggests like sharing childhood stories, like connecting those experiences to the...
Yeah. The idea is to
the moment.
Draw a lesson from those stories and relate them to the current.
So he's trying to like fast track that action shared history.
Yeah, he's trying to like...
Even if you've only just met.
Fast track that sense of shared history.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then finally he talks about checking for ultimate confirmation, which is basically like seeing if...
Basically seeing if she
The woman feels that emotional...
Feels that connection.
Connection.
Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting, but it also feels a little...
It does feel
a little calculated, right? Like, can you really engineer intimacy with a...
Yeah, I mean, that's the question.
Formula.
Right?
Is it genuine, or is it just like a clever way to make someone feel emotional?
He's walking a fine line here.
Attached to you.
Yeah.
Right.
On the one hand, he's offering insights into how to create emotional connection. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, he seems to be implying that you can, like
create love.
Create love on demand. On demand. Right. Which, of course...
is really how...
Not really how it
works.
That's how it works. Right. True intimacy comes from like shared experiences.
It comes from shared experiences.
Mutual trust.
Mutual trust.
It takes time.
And it takes time.
Yep, to develop.
To develop organically. You can't just force it.
Yeah, you can't
force it. It's a bit like trying to bake a cake.
Right.
Without letting it rise properly.
Yeah.
You might end up with something that looks like a cake.
But it's not going to have that same depth and richness.
It's going to be kind of flat.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if you could somehow create love in someone using a formula.
Exactly.
Like, is that
the kind of connection?
The kind of connection you want. It seems a bit
hollow.
Hollow, yeah. No. So that raises the question.
Yeah, what are healthier,
more authentic ways to be?
More authentic ways to
build intimacy and trust.
In
relationships.
These relationships, yeah.
Because while Pellicer's formula might offer some interesting ideas, it's important to remember that
real connection can't be manufactured.
Right? Yeah. It has to come from a
genuine place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after all this talk about creating love and deep rapport and all that, does Pellicer ever acknowledge that things can go wrong?
He does. He dedicates a whole section.
Like, what happens when his system...
to what he calls the 10 biggest mistakes.
Backfires.
Men make when interacting with women.
Oh, okay.
Women.
I'm curious. What are some of these, deal breakers?
He starts with what he calls pecking.
Okay.
Which is basically, constantly seeking reassurance or approval.
Like, you're always looking for validation.
From a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. He lists things like being too needy, coming on too strong, too early, and then there's
too much too soon,
being too cool for school.
Oh yeah,
acting aloof and detached.
Right. Not engaging enough.
So
it's like you got to find that balance between.
It's about finding that balance.
Showing interest.
Yeah, between showing interest and
playing it cool.
Yeah. He also cautions against not touching enough.
Wait, really?
Which I thought was interesting.
That seems a little counterintuitive.
Considering his earlier advice about reading subtle cues and...
Right, like how do you...
respecting boundaries.
Navigate that fine line between...
like a delicate balance.
Escalating physical intimacy appropriately.
And it's one that he doesn't.
And coming across as too aggressive.
Always address clearly.
It seems like a minefield.
It is.
Yeah.
He also warns against asking for permission.
Real.
Instead of taking the lead.
That seems to contradict his earlier advice about being respectful and...
Which, again, I thought was interesting.
Reading cues.
Right.
It's like he's sending
mixed
signals.
Yeah.
So are there any of the mistakes that, really resonate with you? Like ones that you think are genuinely...
One that stood out to me was...
common and damaging.
His warning against creating imaginary relationships.
Okay.
This idea of getting ahead of yourself.
Oh, I know people.
Building up this fantasy bond in your head
all the time
before there's even a real connection.
They fall in love with the idea of someone.
Exactly.
Before they even really know them.
Yeah.
And then they're disappointed when... reality doesn't match their... fantasy.
Their fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder to be...
It is.
It's a good reminder to be present.
To focus on building a...
And to focus on building a real
connection.
Rather
than getting lost in your own...
projection. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so even though some of his advice feels a bit outdated or contradictory, do you think there's value in his 10 biggest mistakes?
I think they offer some...
are they helpful?
Valuable insights into in navigating the complexities of dating.
Pitfalls.
Even if you're not following his...
That can sabotage interactions.
Entire system.
But it's important to take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Consider the context.
Consider the context.
And your own values.
Right, because What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, it's all about being self-aware.
Being self-aware.
Like paying attention to how your actions are being received.
To how your actions are being received.
And making adjustments.
As needed.
Right?
And that brings us back to the question we posed earlier.
What does it really mean?
What does it really mean to be a
badass?
Badass in relationships.
In relationships today.
Because if Pellicer's definition is about...
If it's all about mastering these techniques. Controlling the interaction.
And controlling...
Is that truly empowering?
The interaction.
I'm not so sure.
Right. I think true badassery. In relationships.
Comes from a different place.
It's
about being confident and secure in yourself. Being able to be vulnerable, connect with someone authentically, and build something based on mutual respect and understanding.
So it's less about playing the game and more about being like a genuine, well-rounded person.
You know, focusing on your own.
Like focusing on your own personal
growth.
Rather than trying to
hack the system.
Hack the system.
Yeah.
Right?
It's about cultivating those qualities.
Yeah. And those qualities
they make you attractive.
Are valuable.
In the long run.
In all aspects of life.
Exactly.
Not just dating.
Kindness, empathy.
Great. A sense of humor.
You're becoming a better version of yourself.
The ability to communicate effectively. These are things you can't fake.
And that naturally
makes you more attractive.
And they're ultimately what create lasting connections.
Yeah.
So
it's about shifting the focus from trying to get something from someone.
It's about shifting the focus.
To just being...
Or trying to get something from someone.
The best version of yourself.
To simply being the best version.
And allowing those genuine connections.
Allowing those genuine connections to unfold organically.
So maybe the real takeaway from the Tao of Badass isn't about becoming...
It's not about becoming this
master manipulator.
Right.
It's about using some of those insights to better understand, become more self-aware,
and ultimately build stronger, more authentic relationships.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Agree.
Because while some of Pellicer's techniques might feel outdated or even manipulative,
a little manipulative,
his underlying message about the importance of confidence and understanding.
His underlying message about
social dynamics.
The importance of confidence.
Understanding social dynamics.
It's still
relevant.
It's about taking those nuggets of wisdom and applying them in a way feels authentic.
In a way that feels authentic to you.
That aligns with your
values.
And remembering that there's no
one size fits all
approach to
dating.
What works for one person might not work.
Works for one person might not work for another. It's
about finding your own style. Being genuine. And trusting
that the right connections
will
naturally emerge.
And
sometimes the most badass thing you can do is just be yourself. Quirks and all. Because ultimately people are drawn to authenticity. To those who aren't afraid to.
Show their true colors.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
Embrace your individuality.
Yeah.
Be confident in who you are and trust that the right people will appreciate you for it.
Well said.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Tao of Badass,
I
want to leave you with this.
Yeah.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring more. And most importantly, keep being awesome. So we've really gone deep with this Tao of Badass.
Yeah, we have.
We've looked at Pellicer's system.
Right.
His techniques. Even that creating love thing. But we keep coming back to this question.
Yeah.
What does it even mean?
What does it really mean?
To be a badass in relationships?
Be a badass today.
Right. Because Pellicer kind of makes it seem like badassery is about...
It's about like mastering
manipulation. Controlling
the
interaction.
Right.
Like becoming this smooth operator who always gets what he wants. But I think that definition's...
I think that feels a little...
A little outdated.
Outdated.
Maybe even a little icky.
Yeah, even a little icky.
You know, in the context of...
In the context of modern dating.
Modern dating, it's like he's still stuck in this, like, alpha male mentality.
Yeah.
Where it's all about...
It's all about conquest.
Conquest.
And proving your dominance.
Your dominance. But I think we've moved beyond that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think true badassery in relationships.
Right. True badassery.
Comes from a different place.
Comes from a different place.
Like it's about...
It's about security.
Security in yourself.
Yeah, security in yourself.
Being able to be...
Being able to be vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Connect with someone.
Yeah. Connecting with someone.
Authentically.
Authentically.
Building something.
Building something real.
Based on mutual respect.
Based on mutual respect and understanding.
Exactly.
So it's less about like playing the game. And more about just being a genuine...
It's about being a genuine...
well-rounded person.
Right.
Focusing on your own personal growth.
Focusing on your own personal growth.
Rather than trying to hack the system. Exactly.
It's about cultivating those qualities.
Yeah.
And those qualities are...
That make you attractive.
Like valuable in the long run. All aspects of life.
Yeah,
not just dating.
Kindness. Empathy. A sense of humor.
It's like...
The ability to communicate effectively.
You're becoming a better version.
You know, these are things you can't fake.
Of yourself.
And they're ultimately what create lasting connections.
And that naturally makes you more attractive to other people.
To other people, yeah.
So you're not even focused on that.
Exactly.
There's like a side effect.
It's like a side effect.
Of you being a better person.
Exactly.
It's about shifting the focus from trying to get something from someone.
It's about shifting that focus from...
To just being the best version of yourself.
Trying to get something from someone to simply...
And allowing those genuine connections.
Being the best version of yourself and allowing those...
To unfold organically.
Genuine connections to unfold organically.
Yeah. So maybe the real takeaway from the Taos of Badass isn't about becoming this master manipulator.
It's not about becoming this master manipulator.
It's about using some of these insights to...
It's about using those insights to...
Better understand social dynamics.
Yeah, to better understand social dynamics.
And to become more self-aware.
To become more self-aware.
And ultimately...
build stronger, more authentic.
Stronger, more authentic relationships.
Relationships, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way...
I agree.
To put it, because while some of Pellicer's techniques...
Right, well, some of his techniques...
Might feel outdated or even manipulative.
Might feel a little outdated.
His underlying message...
Or a little manipulative.
About the importance of confidence.
But his underlying message about the importance...
And understanding social dynamics.
Of confidence and understanding.
That's still relevant.
Social dynamics is still relevant.
Yeah, it's about taking those nuggets of wisdom.
Exactly.
And applying them in a way.
Applying them in a way.
That feels authentic to you.
It feels authentic to you. That aligns with your values.
That aligns with your values.
And remembering that there's no one-size-fits-all.
And remembering there's no one-size-fits-all approach to dating.
Approach to dating.
Right.
What works for one person.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Might not work for another.
Exactly.
It's about finding your own style.
It's about finding your own style, being genuine.
Being genuine.
And trusting that the right...
And trusting that the right connections will just...
Connections will naturally emerge. Yeah.
Sometimes the most badass thing you can do is just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
Quirks and all.
Quirks and all, exactly.
Because ultimately people are drawn...
to authenticity.
To authenticity.
Yes.
To those who aren't afraid to show their true...
To those who aren't afraid to show their true colors.
Colors.
Couldn't agree more.
Embrace your individuality.
Embrace your individuality.
Be confident in who you are.
Be confident in who you are.
And trust that the right people...
And trust that the right people will appreciate you for it.
Will appreciate you for it.
Yeah.
That's...
Well said.
Well said.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up our deep dive
into
the Tao of Badass,
okay,
I want to leave you with this. Keep exploring, keep learning.
Keep exploring, keep learning.
And most importantly, keep being awesome.
Keep being awesome.
That's a wrap on this deep dive.
It is.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.